It's time for you to look inward and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And what do you want?
Despite being recognized as a kids' show, Avatar: The Last Airbender has gained millions of fans for its creative battle scenes, world building, likable characters, and its more mature themes. The most important being how most, if not all of the main characters have experienced trauma, and throughout the show overcome it in various ways. But how exactly did these characters change their path for the better? And why does that actually matter so much to us? I'm going to focus on 3 characters in this video that I believe the show does the best with in terms of their moral hurdles to overcome past issues: Zuko, Katara, and Aang. Now that's not to say that other characters didn't face trauma or have growth throughout the show, I just think that these 3 are the best examples. Honorary mentions here are Toph, with her increasingly accepting her blindness as a strength and finding more self-confidence, Sokka becoming a leader in his own way, and Iroh with one of the most heart-wrenching scenes I have ever watched. I mean, what the f*** am I supposed to do with that? Oh, also the cabbage guy, like, was he ever compensated or what? Zuko's path is easily the most complex and gives us the greatest redemption arc in television. That's not a debate, by the way.
All day, son.
But even though Zuko is technically the bad guy for most of the show, much of the person he was can be traced back to the abuses he faced as a child. He was permanently scarred by his own father for speaking up against a morally wrong issue, lost his mother to some ambiguous reason that his father never really explains, and banished away from his own home. This led to Zuko believing that kindness was actually a weakness, and that he couldn't be himself, almost as if the punishment he had received was his own fault rather than his abusive father's. His quest for honor is really just for his father's love, and as a result he hurts others and does morally wrong things time and time again. We see pretty early on that Zuko has some redeemable qualities, such as, basic human decency. He saves that one dude in the storm, and through conversations with Iroh, who we pretty much love immediately, we see a softer side to the antagonist. However, Season 2 is definitely where Zuko's cognitive dissonance really begins. Zuko alone shows him how others really view the Fire Nation, but it also gives us an in-depth look into who Zuko is and what he really stands for. Even though it's messy, we kinda get the sense that he's on the right path. Fast forward to Ba Sing Se, where he starts to hunt down Appa, so much for improvement, and he lets Appa go. This results in him literally dying because he starts to finally do something good. Things are great though, the redemption is coming, and then bam, he turns on Iroh when he gets the chance to get Aang.
That's rough, buddy.
Eventually, Zuko finally realizes that Iroh was right all along and joins Team Avatar, redemption complete. But what makes Zuko's redemption so great is that it wasn't perfect. In fact, at the end of Season 2, we could have been totally convinced that Zuko had fully reverted back to his old self. He repeatedly stumbles and makes himself look like an asshole, even when he doesn't mean to. When Ozai and Zuko finally meet during the eclipse, Zuko shows a matured side of him that encapsulates everything he had learned. Doing the right thing but the right way, finding strength in love, and acknowledging that although his father had scarred him both physically and mentally, there was a brighter future for him than the one he was quote-unquote destined for.
Wait! What's that? I think it's your honor!
Where?
Like seemingly every child in this show, Katara had a loved one die. In this case, her mom. Her dad left the Southern Water Tribe to fight, which just left her, Sokka, and Gran. As a result, Katara had to grow up quickly, and actually ended up being a motherly figure to Sokka. Despite being a fairly calm character, whenever her mother's death was brought up, it made her quite emotional and angry. Pretty justified. So when Zuko told her he knew where to find the killer, she pounced at the opportunity, ready for revenge. Despite Aang's plead for her to forgive the man and Sokka empathizing with her, she still sets out to get her closure. However, once she's actually face to face with him, the man who had caused her so much misery, the murderer who took her own mother, she chooses to spare his life. Now, don't get me wrong, Katara had every right to turn this dude into a human popsicle, and I don't know how many of us would have actually been mad at it. But instead, she chose to rise above his level. He just wasn't worth her time. The grief and anger wasn't going to be solved by killing someone else. We have to be better than those who hurt us, or else the cycle of hatred will never stop. The best part for me about Katara's choice is that she did it her way. She didn't forgive him like Aang wanted, but she still got her anger out and gained the closure she needed to move on. I think that's pretty rad. In terms of who had the worst cards dealt to them, it's hard to argue that Aang wasn't royally screwed by the Avatar gods. Coming back after 100 years to discover your people have been completely wiped off the planet is pretty rough. But the fact that Aang ran away and could have potentially helped fight during the comet invasion that wiped them out is a whole nother level of guilt and grief. Besides Appa and Momo, there's literally no other airbender left. He's alone. Not to mention you're the Avatar and have to defeat crazy Mark Hamill soon. That probably adds a ton of responsibility too. The sheer weight on his shoulders, the ghosts of everyone he loved weighing him down and trying to not let them die for nothing is unreal. We can see when Appa gets stolen just how far Aang is willing to go to prevent him from losing anyone else. Talk about abandonment issues. Damn. So, where actually is Aang's growth? Where does he overcome all that trauma? For me, it's actually that despite everything bad that had happened to him, Aang never changed his morals and stuck firmly to them. He has to fight Ozai. Like, has to. There's just no going around it. You have to defeat the biggest baddie on the planet, or else the world goes to shit. Aang is conflicted though, as he doesn't want to kill Ozai, and after seeing how anger took control of him when Appa was taken, he doesn't exactly want to repeat that. He was taught by the monks never to kill. The beliefs of everyone who had died rests on him. Even with seemingly no other option, Aang sticks to his morals, much harder option, and with the help of a giant swimming turtle island, I don't know what the hell that thing is, he defeats Ozai. Aang not letting his grief and anger win, staying true to himself, and preserving the sanctity of life that all the other air nomads had taught him truly shows just how strong he is. Aang didn't so much overcome his trauma as he did withstand it, never letting it change who he is. The beauty of this supposed kids show was that over the course of 3 seasons, we see these characters experience loss and pain only to bounce back. It's not without flaws. They often reverse back to bad habits, are hypocritical, and make irrational decisions. That being said, the flaws in these characters humanized them and related them to us, the viewers. They're kids, just like many of us were when we first watched. No, obviously we couldn't relate to them on a one-to-one basis. I don't know about you, but I wasn't transforming into a giant blue monster and murdering enemies when I was 12. Unless. But that didn't mean we couldn't relate to the emotional changes that these kids were going through. We saw ourselves in Aang, taking on new responsibilities, afraid we'd never live up to certain expectations that others had put on us. Katara grieving her loss, maybe around the same time some of us began to first lose our grandparents, trying to figure out how to handle that grief. And we connected with Zuko, trying to figure out who he is and who he should be. We grew up alongside these characters and saw ourselves in them. We watched them battle through challenge after challenge, overcoming their personal traumas as they grew up. I don't know about you, but I carry a piece of these characters with me every day. That's my biggest takeaway from Avatar, and personally for me, I think that's why it's the best animated show ever. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, let me know by subscribing, and if you didn't, then I don't know. Also, I'm probably only going to put out 5 more videos, and if people don't like them, then I'm probably going to stop. So, if you do like them, then let me know. Okay, goodbye.